Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Eye of the Watchers podcast, where we're bringing you all the support and insight you need to get hyped about League of Legends esports. I'm Sam, aka Just Casual. To my sides, I have Manny, aka Manser, and Austin, aka the Rogue Nerd. Welcome, gentlemen. We will be talking about the European LCS. We have not done an episode on this, so we're really excited to bring this episode to you right before playoffs. In case you haven't been watching Europe, now you can get into it and watch playoffs without knowing anything that happened before, because we're going to try to fill you in on the storylines and just kind of what's been happening, because EU has been pretty crazy as well. So the first things first, what happened in EU? And the first thing I see on our doc is the Misfits problem. What happened to Misfits? They missed playoff, Manny.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows of Misfits, the team that broke TSM's heart for yet another year in the international stage. But man, they started out hot, right? Like they did really good at the beginning of the season, and I think they're just awful at adapting. And I think they lost two of their biggest playmakers, right? I mean, Ignar went to Korea, and Mickey X has been decent, but Power of Evil, I think that loss really was the backbone of the team. And Austin, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think just losing that mid laner that could play aggressive, could play kind of like these weird builds, could have like a bigger voice, just showed like its weaknesses, especially later on.
That and Power of Evil actually had a bigger effect in the shot calling for Misfits too. He definitely was a big impact in that spot. Additionally, with that, it's also like right now they're just getting out macroed like towards the end of the season. Like Barons, Dragons, just team fights losing towards the end, leading to multiple towers going down and not being able to come back from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I mean, we're talking about a team that took SK Telecom to 5 games.
Made the gods bleed.
They made them bleed hard. Like they were close to being the first Western team to beat a Korean team in a best of 5 series. Like that was it. I mean, it would have been crazy, right? And it just shows that Ignar on like a playmaking support, like it showed like there was that like creativity kind of missing. But starting off, like Misfits were hot, right? Hansama, one of the best 80 carries at the beginning of the split, right? We'll talk about who overshadowed him after. But, it's just crazy to see like a team that did so well, because they didn't lose any of the coaching staff, right? They didn't lose the top side of the map in sense of Alfari and Maxlor was still there, and like they're still good. But I feel like their spark was lost, especially once patches started to change more drastically, right? Like support had no more vision for junglers, right? I think all of that had like a huge impact. And also just I think teams figured them out, right?
Right.
I think it's kind of like you have this cheese, and I don't really like to call it cheese, because what they've showcased wasn't cheese against SKT, right? What they showcased in Worlds was nothing close to cheese, right? It was like legitimate strategies that just threw everyone off, right? I think that would have worked. They would have won that series against any other team, probably aside from Samsung, who ended up winning, but like almost every other team would have had the same impact, right? It's just, to me, it's kind of like disheartening to see a team that has been so strong lose playoffs, and not just like barely, but literally like one game off from like they tied with Rocket, but because of their head-to-head record, they weren't able to make it. And that's just awful, right? Because they had the chance to have that head-to-head record be a tie, and they lost to Rocket in the last like week or two. And that's just like, I don't know. I hope to see this team improve a lot more, because in terms of international showing, they did better than G2, right? Like they've done so much. So it's kind of like sad to see that.
I hope to see him in the off season kind of pick up that creativity again, start working on their macro play, bringing it back. And I'd hope to see him like come back into that spot where they should be come summer, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, because the thing is also like during the summer, I'm pretty sure Misfits were actually sixth going into playoffs. And they went from sixth and made it all the way to the finals, right? So it's not a team that hasn't shown struggles, but I just think Power of Evil's loss was so much bigger because they have Hansama to carry, but who else is going to carry, right? It's kind of like if we were to see a TSM with double lift, right? But instead of losing double lift, you lose Bjergsen. It's like if you shut off double lift, who's going to take that role, right? It's kind of like that for like NA perspective, maybe.
I mean,
right. And then on the flip side of things, like you see Power of Evil over in NA, and he's also on a team that really didn't do as well as you would expect. And so like the separation of the two, Power of Evil leaving Misfits, just in a way kind of like both didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's definitely, and granted, yeah, it's been one split, but he definitely left for the green,
right?
The green wall, that is, of course, not the money.
All right, so I think that's good for Misfits. Second thing we want to talk about: biggest shock.
I don't know. I mean, Austin, what do you think was your biggest shock for this season?
I mean, you have Unicorns of Love, who just down at the bottom, didn't make playoffs at all. You have Fnatic, who comes back, they're up at the top, but just like overall, looking at the play in Europe, like just from a former competitive players type of perspective, like the biggest shock to me is the most played champions throughout the entire split, all of them except for one. So the top played champion each position except for the ADC is below 50% win rate.
Yeah.
Right.
What the heck?
Right. Even the top banned champion, which is Rise, is below a 50% win rate in Europe. So like to see that, you're kind of thinking about it in an outside perspective of like, you have all these champions that are being highly picked, but they're not winning games. So why are they still being chosen? Mm-hmm. You know, you aren't seeing the switch off of those heroes throughout the meta. So that's kind of surprising to me. Just coming from a player's perspective.
Yeah. Right. And I think like what's interesting about that, and going off of that just a little bit, it's just that I feel like a lot of these teams, and maybe this was even something for Misfits, right? Because to me, like that was like one of the biggest shocks. The other one is just H2K, which I'll get into in a second. But it's just like some of these teams try to do so like complicate things so much, right? It's like they pick 5 squishies and they're like, all right, we can do this. And it's like, oh, wait, hold on a second. Right. You actually can't, because you have no way. If you make a small mistake, right? And SKT has been shown that, right? Like other teams have been shown that. It's like, you could be whatever team in the world. If you have a really hard composition to pull off, if you make one mistake, can just destroy your whole game, right? No matter how good or bad you are.
And one small misstep can just ruin the entire game for you.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of teams have been showing the heavy tank compositions, and then you play an all squishy team into that, and it's like, all right, you're going to be doing a lot of damage to them, but since they have such high health pools, when they damage you back, you can't really stay and fight.
Yeah.
So it's just the way that teams are trying to go about their picks and their choices in games is just really surprising to me.
So do you think part of that, I mean, this is always brought up when we talk about EU, but the whole scrim culture in Europe. And I even heard the casters on the post-game lobby, is that what it's still called? Yeah.
Yes.
For this last week, they brought that up. And when teams just give up after first blood happens, or just like, someone's up 5-0, or they're just playing like crazy, maybe playing super aggressive on 5 Squishy champions, like, hey, it works because we're so far ahead. Let's bring this onto stage. Do you think like the coaching staff or just the organization of teams or the mindset and the scrim culture in EU is a big part of this weirdness on stage?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of it, because like whenever like I was playing in scrims, we took it the same as we would take a real game. You would play it full out, and you would play as hard as you can, win or lose. At the end of the game, you would still review your footage, see what happened. But when I hear about like sometimes FFing after 15 minutes, and it's like, why? Like I understand like you may not win the game overall, but you don't know, you may have an opportunity to turn it, or you may learn something else throughout that game that could then be applied to a future game.
And I think it's a lot of professionalism, and it's tough to say exactly what's the issue, right? Because I mean, Prolly has talked about this so much, right? He used to be the head coach or main coach of H2K, right? And he said when he was there, and this was last year, right? You saw a lot of this like be an issue, right? Like this was still an ongoing issue, and just knowing that, he's like, well, in NA it doesn't happen, right? So there's a level of professionalism, and this is not to spark any NA greater than EU arguments or anything, but it honestly, as a player, like you look at any other sport, right? I mean, granted, yeah, their scrims are not full on sports because it's a lot of physical activity, but like you don't just go, oh, I threw a bad pass in my practice game. Fuck this, right? I'm going to locker, dude. I'll come back tomorrow. You don't see that, right? It's a level of like, well, I fucked up there. How do I improve it, right? Yeah. So maybe it is like, yeah, in scrims, these compositions work because they work that 20% of the time, right? But you didn't attempt the other 80% because it didn't work. And it's like, well, how are you going to get back from that? How are you going to learn from that? So I think it is part of like the coaching problem, but I think the main issue is the players, right? And with a region that has so many players willing to step up, willing to try to be the best, it's tough, right? NA doesn't have that. NA doesn't have a large pool of challenger players that they could just pick. There's so many imports, right? You don't really see as many imports in EU. I mean, if you do, they're Korean, right? Aside from the one NA guy that got kicked out of H2K 3 weeks in, right? And I think that's an issue, right? And you see a lot of this lack of professionalism, and you actually saw that a lot at the beginning of the split with Reckless, or even last year with Reckless. Of, well, I need to carry. I'm not gonna play around with my team and see how we can all win the game. It's I carry or we lose. And if we saw it even at Worlds, it's like that's not something you could do. Or even in playoffs, it's like, oh yeah, we'll ban your Kennen. What are you gonna do now? And it's like, yeah, you're right. And I think that's like something that needs to improve from the players. But it's hard as a coaching staff to just be like, listen, you little shit, right? Because there's still that like closeness in age and stuff, right? There's not that many coaches that are like, holy shit, this guy's been coaching for 10 years, right? There's not like that respect, I feel like.
Daylor needs to come back.
Daylor needs to come back. No food for you. Sorry, Daylor.
All right. So the third thing about what happened in EU, Fnatic, are they back? They took the throne from the kings of Europe. G2 is not number one in the standings. That being said, playoffs are coming around. So how legit is Fnatic? How legit is G2?
I mean, just looking at Fnatic and like their last couple of weeks, their last 4 games have been just dominations across the board. And I mean, Reckless can carry. I mean, he's got the top KDA in EU. He's got, he's around, I think, a 12.1 CS per minute. Like, and the next closest is 11. So, like, I mean, he's sitting there and playing well above any other player. So it's just like, and then I think it's like Fnatic has, like, of the top 5 KDAs, Fnatic has 3 of the top 5. So like they are way up there as far as the team, and with the dominations in the last 2 weeks, it just seems like no one can catch them.
Right. And with that in mind, I was thinking a lot back again to playoffs of the summer split of 2017 summer, right? Where Fnatic also came in number 1, but they were very one-dimensional, right? They were reckless. Here are all the eggs. Please don't break them. Misfits came around. We're like, hey, fuck your eggs, you know, and like destroyed Fnatic. And it doesn't seem like that, right? Reckless is a huge carry, but Caps has been playing like a monster. Like,
right.
Caps is ridiculously good. And I think that year of experience that he has gotten in like international events, you know, such as Worlds and such as Rift Rivals even, right? Like, this is a young guy that's like, Perks is still good, but he's been on a tilt. So has G2. So it's like, I want to say yes, because Fnatic was my original like favorite team. We'll just need to see how G2 are able to bounce back, if they're able to bounce back, right? Because again, in playoffs, anything can happen. But looking at it, I mean, you know, we'll go into our predictions in a little bit, but like just looking at it, I really don't see anyone touching Fnatic, right? And that's with them having 6 players that are able to play, because Soaz, people were like, well, if they don't have Soaz, like the top lane, who will they have? Buipo?
Yeah.
Their rookie sensation. He's a monster. It's just like, I don't know, dude.
His Swain game was insane the other day.
Yeah. So I think they also just have adapted the best, right? And I mean, Reckless, I heard the story this last week, and it's like Reckless was in the Euphoria podcast, which is the Riot podcast for EU.
Yeah.
And he was like, man, fuck Ezreal. Ezreal's the worst ADC in the game. And it's like, all right, well, we have a lot of damage, so we need someone safer, not like DPS heavy. So in the last game of the season, they're like, hey, Reckless, you're going to play Ezreal. And he's like, okay, he gets a quadra kill. Like, it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like, they have so many outlooks, right? You in NA, for example, COG are known to play Aurelion Sol, right? No one else can play Aurelion Sol almost anywhere. Caps, he'll play it. He won't play it as often as Hootie, and it's not like a guaranteed win, but he has so much like playthrough. Brox, I think, is fantastic. Hylissang actually looks like a good support now for Reckless. So it's like they're all playing together, and it's just, I don't know. I see them as like the heavy favorites for sure by a mile.
Right.
And I would be surprised if Fnatic are not the MSI representatives for EU.
All right, cool. So with that, I think we can assume what the finals predictions are, but backtracking a little bit, let's talk about our playoff predictions of spiciness. For just quick details, we talked about it on the NA podcast, but pretty much we have quarterfinals. All the games are best of 5. Everything's on patch 8.5 as well, if I'm correct about that. Yep.
Yes.
Getting the nod by my co-host over here. But yeah, quarterfinals. We have Splice and Rocket as the first match. What are you guys thinking there?
Hands down, I think Splice takes it. Like, they've just been playing really good, and I don't think Rocket has what it takes to sit there and actually win the best of 5. I think if it was best of 1s, Rocket could get lucky. Best of 5, it's Splice's game.
Yeah. How many games do you think it'll take? Are they going to 3-0 sweep them, or will Rocket take one game away from them?
I'd say they take one.
So 3-1
I think they come out and surprise them with 1.
That's fair. I like that. So the realistic side of me says, yeah, Splice is going to dominate this. Niski has been looking great. Xerxes has been looking great. Kasing, god damn it, that man is a beautiful monster. Odoame is just like, you know, like they just have so many like, I'm gonna say Rocket takes this in a shocking 3-2. It's good. Quote me on this, dude. You're gonna see the dabs hit them from the Rocket. Oh, I know. We quoted. I think that somehow, some way, Rocket are gonna just pull this out of their ass because they were known as the Kingslayers. They're known for their crazy upsets. I just have a feeling that Rocket are gonna surprise Splice, and then Splice is gonna be like, "Oh." So I think Rocket are gonna advance from that quarterfinal side.
All right, the spicy prediction of EU. All right, so what about the second matchup in the quarterfinals, which would be Vitality versus H2K?
I feel this one's going to be a lot closer. It's going to go all games, and I think H2K is going to take it in the end. They've been looking a lot stronger than Vitality in these last couple weeks. Vitality's fallen off. I mean, they've had some back and forth games with G2. They had kind of like a Baron throw. Like they won a Baron throw against Splice, but that's the only reason why they won that game. Like they were down most of that game and they just won it because Splice stayed way too long. But as far as like consistent winning and like consistency that I see H2K with a lot more consistent games in these last few weeks. And I'm going to take H2K 3-2.
3-2. Ooh, spicy. Manny, what are you feeling here?
My heart wants to say H2K as well. But I just imagine Yamato Cannon looking at me and going, "You're stupid." And I'm just going to be like, "Yamato, I'm sorry, man. I don't believe in God Gilius. But Jisuke and I just forgot the name of their ADC, but the Portuguese sniper. I just know that that's his nickname.
You mean Mini Tropa?
Yeah, Mini Trupax. Yeah, that's it, dude. Mini Trupax. I'm gonna give this to Vitality. I think Yamato Cannon is gonna pull out the whip, dude, and be like, you guys are gonna fucking learn today. It hurts to say it. I love Selfie. I love Sheriff from H2K side. It's just, I don't know. I feel like Vitality does have the higher high in this one. So I will give it to Vitality 3-1 in the series.
Yeah, wow, 3-1. Right. We're exactly opposite.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out. It's like, is Manny serious? Is he trying to be spicy, or is he going full? He's embracing EU. That's what he's embracing.
Right. I'm thinking of the craziness that is EU.
All right. So when we talk about semifinal matchups, how does that stack up? G2 will be facing. Okay, this is hard because both of you have totally different predictions. So you got to help me out here. So Austin, who would be facing G2 in your bracket?
Splice will be facing G2, and therefore I am additionally taking Splice 3-2 over G2.
Ooh, spicy. Manny, just to add a little more conversation, would you agree with that prediction if G2 and Splice go with the head-to-head?
It would be close.
It would be close. I think G2 takes it 3-2. If that were the final. If it were to be Splice G2, just because I think Perks by that point will be like, wait, I'm so good. What the hell? Then it's just hard carry. If that were to be the final. On my side, obviously, if H2K, if Vitality ended up winning, I think it would be G2 versus Vitality.
Wait.
Yeah.
You mean Rocket?
No, because Rocket is 6th, and they would first Fnatic.
Right. Yes.
So I got confused when you said it too. I was like, hold on a second. No. But so I think G2 against Vitality. One of the main reasons I predicted it this way is because this would be an amazing semifinal. We got to see again glimpses of some of these matches. I still again, Yamato, I'm gonna ignore me on this one. Yo, fuck off. Your boys don't got it against G2. I will take G2 3-2 either way, winning the semifinal and going to the finals.
How does that sound to you, Austin?
I mean, G2 versus Vitality, I think G2's got it. G2's just been more consistent throughout the entire season than Vitality. Vitality's been coming back. They've been winning, but I don't believe in them that hard.
Yeah, like it's interesting because like you kind of see G2 and Vitality had the same like way of the season. It's like, oh, they're starting good. Oh, wait, what's going? Oh, okay. They're no. And then it's like they ended the week in a win. It's like their season in a win. It's like, all right, guys, everything's okay.
That's funny.
But yeah, you know.
All right, cool. So going back to Austin's bracket, that would mean Fnatic versus H2K. Who gets that one?
Fnatic 3-0. I have no faith.
I hard agree on that one.
All right, that one was easy.
Down to the number.
Let's make it a little spicy though. What would H2K need to do to make it at least an interesting series?
Unplug Reckless's mouse.
All right, that bad, huh?
Fair. I mean, you can't really focus any bans towards Reckless. He's got everything. You can't focus any bans actually really towards anyone. They've all got so much that they can put out. The top lane does focus a little bit more on the tank side. So if you kind of focus ban the top, you may be able to give yourself a slight advantage in the top, but I mean, you're still going to have a very tough game.
All right. Pretty much hopeless. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
You play against Zoas. It's like Zoas can play anything. Like he's been playing dog champs this last year, but that man has a pedigree of playing anything and everything. You know, he's been playing the game for a goddamn long time. So.
Right. All right, cool. So moving down to Manny's bracket. I know this is probably confusing for all you listening, but it's still spicy. Fnatic versus Roccat. What's it to you, Manny?
Man, I think this series is going to be hard fought, very close on both ends, and Fnatic are going to take a 3-0 because Roccat can't take a single game.
And I'm guessing this is pretty much the same reasoning.
Yeah. Like, you need to unplug like everything from Fnatic's side.
Right.
All right, cool. So with that, what do our finals look like for Austin? That would be Splice versus Fnatic.
I would say Fnatic take it 3-1. 3-1.
Yeah, if that were to be the final, I would agree with that. I think that's actually like a fair assessment of Splice winning like the first or third game. I'm gonna go down to the T in this one.
Right. Yeah.
And then just getting demolished from then on. It's just like
I think either I agree with you. First or third game, Splice will pull something out that will surprise Fnatic. And then the rest of the time, Fnatic's just going to be like, well, we saw what your surprise is. The rest of it, we know how to play against.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So Splice basically needs to pull out 3 really weird team comps to catch Fnatic off guard 3 times or maybe 4 times or something.
Give me like a Ziggs with a Zillion and like, I don't know, throw in a Thresh ADC in there because why not? You know?
Like the thing is like, Xerxes plays everything, right? In the jungle. Like he's the one that started playing Ivern when he first came out. He pulled off Warwick when he was first reworked. But it's like Fnatic, I feel like is just prepared for most of the surprises, right? They just know how to play optimal League of Legends at the moment. Mm-hmm. They can collapse, right? I could be completely wrong in all my predictions because Fnatic end up collapsing, but they just seem like such a ready team, right? They seem like a team that's ready to jump back into the international waters where they kind of belonged in the past. So
they're just playing at the playground right now with EU, and they're like, "When's Worlds? Is it coming up soon? Oh, we got one more split. All right, what do we do? Reckless, you want to play some Kennen ADC again?" All right, cool. So Manny, your bracket, we got Fnatic versus G2. Is this at least closer?
Yes, this is actually a lot closer, and I think both teams are in their A game, and this is a final. This goes 3-2 to Fnatic.
Okay.
And I think the main reason is because, again, I think one of the only mids that can hold his ground against Caps is going to be Perks, right? Like, Perks is going to do a lot, right? Yankos versus Broxa, dude. Yankos is hit or miss, sadly. Like my main issue is G2 get a debuff because Yankos in playoffs is top notch, of course. You know, he's never won a playoff, so maybe he could try. But it's just I think it's like the closest series you could see. But it would be 3-2. I'd go with, but I think Fnatic, if it's not a 3-2, it's almost like a clean sweep,
Right.
in my opinion. It's like it's one or the other. It's not really, you know, it's not like, oh, they take one and they won two in a row. No, it's like either Fnatic just completely stomp G2 or like it's just hard fought like all 5 games.
Yeah, it's either G2 comes out to play or they don't. It's one or the other. And if they come out and they start losing hard, they're just going to tilt the rest of the way. Question, Manny.
Yeah.
Who's your MVP choice for the split?
It has to me, it has to be Reckless. And honestly, I think almost without a doubt, and if it's not Reckless, it's Caps. It has to be a Fnatic member because of how dominant they've been. And like the beginning of the split was bad. Like first 4 weeks was like were probably bad, but then post 5, like as everyone else dropped, like Fnatic were just stayed like in the same level and then just skyrocketed. So I think it has to be Reckless and it'll probably be Reckless. I think so. But and then I think we have our 3rd and 4th match, which will be for me Roccat versus Vitality. And this, you ready for this one? You guys gonna? I look at Yamato Cannon and say, Rocket are gonna smash your team to pieces. I think Rocket take a 3-1, specifically because in the regular season, I'm pretty sure Rocket went 2-0 or 1-1 against Vitality, and I was just like, I don't know how these guys are doing it, but I like it. I'll keep on going.
So you're saying Vitality's hopes and dreams are just going to be crushed by Fnatic and then stomped on by Rocket.
Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. Vitality going to be like, hey guys, maybe we'll have a stronger summer and, you know, we'll see what happens there. But I think Rocket would take it. I think Rocket taking a 3-1. Oof.
Okay.
And in my third and 4th place match.
Gotcha.
So then I have G2 and H2K.
Yeah.
And that's easy. G2 is just going to take it 3-1. I'll give H2K 1 game.
That's very nice fair. Of you.
Yeah.
That's nice.
No, that is nice. I think like my biggest issue with predicting these is literally how tilted Perks is, because he's been like he's been probably one of the best European players in the past 2 years, aside from probably Reckless. And this split is just like, what are you doing? Like, sometimes it's just like he goes in, it's like, why did you go in 1v5, you know? But I don't know. I think having 2 weeks for that, I think they should be A+ for the remainder of the split.
Do you expect between spring and summer any sub swaps?
I think the big one is probably gonna be Soaz announcing his retirement. I think he might retire or say, I'm gonna be more of a sub role and help out, like go in the role position coach for Weepo. And if anything, I see maybe Unicorns of Love trying to get something. But I don't see like it's hard because they now have like the
academy team
they have like the little time off of, they don't have to fight for relegation in the first half of this, you know, the year. They only do it in the second one because it's just different in EU. So I don't know if we'll see heavy differences, but I mean it can happen, right? It's like, I don't know, EU's kind of crazy with that stuff. It's like, oh yeah, we're good. Like Misfits, it's like, oh yeah, we're good, guys. Power of Evil left. It's like, everyone's just like, excuse me. It's like, yeah. So yeah, I think, I mean, it will be tough, but
yeah,
to predict, I think maybe just so as I feel like he's been deciding to to take more hands off. So like, especially this week.
So you're saying Soaz isn't gonna make it to Worlds?
Oh, he'll make it to Worlds as the coaching staff. I mean,
water boy.
Because like people will try to buy Bwipo, and Bwipo will probably want to get more of a starting role. But if you're Fnatic and you're smart, you don't let that kid go.
Right.
Like, you don't let him go to anyone in EU because then he's your direct rival and they know how good he is, right? And
right.
I think Hylissang had an interview and he's like, whatever happens, I want this kid to stay because he's so fucking good, right? And it's just like, God damn, like he made your, like, these are veterans that have been playing the game for 3+ years. And it's like, this kid, this rookie has that impression. Like, yeah, you know, like he is now up in the ballot for rookie of the split because he played the last 3 games of the season. So it's like, who knows? Maybe he'll get it, right? But I think if anything, that's the only major like movement I see.
Okay.
Did you have anyone in mind that you're like, this guy, he's getting the fuck out? Perks is gonna see the green wall money and he's gonna be like, our people move aside. My turn to shine and Optic Gaming.
No, I really think Unicorns of Love need to do something to change what they're doing, because I mean, to go from where they were to where they are now, it's something needs to change.
So I agree, but at the same time, I mean, there was the whole joke at the beginning of this play where it's like they were the best 1-8 team in the existence of the ELCS, and they were close. They got close to. I mean, they shared the last spot with H2K, and then that second half of the season, they just lost one too many games to get them into playoffs, right? So it's like, I think it's one of those teams where it's like, I could see a change, but I doubt we'll see one just because I think they've been improving. And that's, I think, the Unicorns of Love wave, right? Of like, hey, this team kind of sucks. We're making it to play. It's like, all right, guys, you know, what the hell? I think it's kind of like they're calling, but who knows? Right. I mean, it could happen, right?
All right,
cool. Any other things you guys want to talk about with EU and what's going to happen?
I think it's going to be an exciting playoffs coming up, and I mean, I think my predictions are right, but you know, we'll see. We'll see.
I like that. Yeah, you know, I'm right, man. He's completely wrong. You know, it's just that exciting time. We'll be releasing this obviously before everything starts, but so you guys remember, depending on when you're watching this, playoffs start Friday. Whatever for this Friday
March
is,
23rd.
I think it's like March 23rd. And then Saturday, March 24th are the first 2 quarterfinals, you know, following the week after. And whichever team ends up winning, I think is actually going to have a very good time because MSI, the group stage, is in the Berlin studio, you know, where they play all the time. So it's going to be, I think they're actually going to have a 1-up chance, especially if it's Fnatic, which it should be Fnatic. But, you know, I think it's going to be cool to see them defending their home turf again. It'll be interesting.
Right.
Cool. All right. So that is it for this episode of the Eye of the Watchers, giving you all the support and insight you need to get hyped about League of Legends esports. So until next time, see ya.
Peace.
See ya.